Well, hey there ladies and gents, been a good while since I've done any type of video. This is now just going to be for the Standable. It's an application now available for half body tracking, and it's also known as full body estimation. It guesses where you're roughly standing in regards obviously to your half body tracking, be it Quest but not standalone. It's not available for standalone. It's PCVR Quest or any other PCVR headset, as well as Index and other VR headsets as was. This is kind of the amateur side review. We've got the professionals doing it, amateur here, normal person, which is a larger majority of the base of who plays VR chat and uses such things. So this is Standable version 1, is released the other day. I got it the other day. Spent a good while actually figuring out how to do anything with it. Yes, eventually found or realised there was an actual guide video. But it still, I think, needs a little refinement in that the guy, of course, knows what he's doing and does sort of little wrist flicks for entering calibration, exiting calibration, that you would not necessarily pick up on when watching it initially, and of course people being keeny beanies to get things working, and that was a glitch. It's kind of hard to see sometimes, so took a good while to get it working, and I do say sort of working because there's still seemingly issues with it. Walking backwards and forwards, again, I'm not here to do a calibration setup video, but it is a T-pose. Oh wait, start. Let's see. So, start up Steam VR. Start up Standable, the program itself. Take your controllers, put them on the floor next to each other, and that will stretch the markers across the right orientation, which is the first issue I had. I was upside down, but then controls on the floor together, corrects the body into roughly your body shape or this orientation. Pick them up, enter the T-pose. Flick your wrists quite firmly, and then everything should snap to where it should be in a humanoid position. Arms T-pose, chest, torso, knees and feet. Weirdly enough though, and maybe they should reverse this because it would just make fucking sense, you know. You flick your wrists again and everything sort of explodes off, but it is calibrated. Weird, but it is calibrated even though everything just goes poof. And then you start up VR chat application and then go for the calibration process inside VR chat. Disabling shoulder trackers, go to your big menu. It's under your IK, which again, if you've not had full body before, you now get extra options showing up that have IK and IK tweaks. Go to settings, big menu, IK and tracking, or tracking at IK. And again, disabling shoulder trackers. And good thing to have on here is display calibration values. I would not normally use that for normal full body tracking, not full body estimation. This is good for full body estimation, and it shows how far away those little balls are, which you saw just for a second there. You may see just there floating around. Those are my knees. This is what I mean. You kind of like they could have put them there, but those are my knees anyway. So this is the full body estimation review as per an amateur or just Joe Blogs with the software. And again, I have full body tracking, so I know what it should look like or should feel like. And the issues are, well, the perks are that it does work eventually. It does work eventually. But for you, full body, half body users, again full body estimation, it seems great. Full body tracking, not so. The issues are that sidestepping, for example, or this, I'm now stood upright, and it's kind of just jerking around just a little bit too much. And if I sidestep IRL, this is what's been dubbed ice skating by a friend. I don't know if that's ironically the actual term used for it, but yeah, it fits pretty well. Ice skating. Sidestepping doesn't seem to agree with it. However, a little fun thing, jump. If you actually jump, it will put the feet back in a standing position, but that was my chair. You don't want to be doing that all the time. So a little refinement there. Walking backwards and forwards, it works quite nicely. Again, I'm focusing on the legs because that's normally now the extra part you should have, and it does pretty well to actually match up with what would be, a good sense of steps. So walking backwards and forwards is pretty darn good. Side steps just doesn't exist. And that's where the whole kind of weird jerkiness or jankiness like that will come into it, because people, will be moving around and doing their things, and it just doesn't seem to like diagonal type movements. And you see there's a whole delay in the hips sort of sliding with that. You can't notice it much walking backwards and forwards because visually it's hard to estimate that movement of backwards and forwards. But sidestepping, yes, you can see there's a little bit of movement that's kind of maybe natural, but again, great software. Early days, I get it, but still things to look at and review. With twisting and moving the body itself, it does really nicely. And I'm trying to keep in shot. I realise that obviously my OBS might be zoomed out a bit far, but that's what it wants to do. But it does bring a more dynamic movement to torso twisting, hip movements, and these sorts of things if I'm doing this. See, that looks pretty good. I'm actually standing like that IRL, which is pretty cool. Yes, I did a little bob dance. But as for normal movements, that's where it just goes, I don't know what to do. Oh, and that as well. Sometimes the elbows or arms will just go rather interestingly around the place. It does use trigonometry to calibrate or estimate what the positions of the torso would be using arms, and doing this as well. And that's where it sort of goes and catapults the lower half to roughly the positions. It's a pretty cool idea, but simple enough. But then we get some other issues where I don't know if it is to do with the knees being in a funny place, and I traced it with a human avatar. Yes, I have a furry one, deal with it. It kind of just does this weird sort of stuff. And I am sat on my floor. Sat on my floor, legs forward, so my feet are actually over here. And, I'm just leaning backwards and forwards like this. It still does this weird chicken leg thingy. And of course, lying on my back now. My feet are out, but again, it's good estimation on where it goes. However, when I got my chest in my face, and also it does this. Again, they're using the arms and the head to calibrate angles and whatnot. And again, I only have hand tracker controllers, so it can't. If I had a chest tracker, for example. Actually, no, that would defeat the object's 3-point tracking. So, but yeah. So it does this, which again can just be a little bit like discombobulating or uncomfortable, especially if you start to get that sense of, again, phantom sense, or also sense of that's where I am type thing. But that's one of the big issues it's been having. It took me a while to get it to even roughly to this kind of okay state, and it just does some just slightly odder movements that maybe, as I suggested, maybe on the YouTube, on the chat, that maybe a slider or something could say, I only want to turn this far or this much. You do have to enable head tracking on the settings, or lock the torso if you want to go that way around. And it is that one there. But that kind of is a bit janky. Overall, it's really good software. Again, just make sure your settings are set. Some of the things I didn't really cover is set the calculation by height. Yes, I'm 5'8", average height for my country. Welcome to the rest of the world, not America. So yeah, set it to height. IK type of 2.0 with that enabled, the 2.0. You get the options to do lock the torso parts. I already used the lock head with mine anyway, with full body. For those who don't use lock head, it will feel different. But again, you're going to use full body or half body, whatever it is. And then you would calibrate, of course, and do the little T-pose. In fact, I can show you. even though I'm probably going to mess things up. So these are the balls. Hopefully they show up on the screen. Well, these are the balls. I'm going to make sure PlayStation is correct. I can move them around. Those are the hands in the background. It took my movements as a flick of the wrist. This is the calibration pose. Now this, weirdly enough, is... Oh, sorry, it's double image because I have a personal mirror as well as actual mirror. But yeah, that's the balls in position, which looks like that makes sense, of course. But when you flick your wrist, they go out of position. But that, again, is calibrated. Strange. I should have reversed that. Again, the height is set, but I'm going through the floor because I'm looking down as well. The viewpoint inside the avatar's head, the ball, for those who don't realise, there's a ball that is your head, effectively your viewpoint. Being my avatars, the viewpoint is forward on the nose because of the longer face, but humanoid it will be inside the head and eyes, so it causes this leverage effect when I look up and down because the ball, it's moving avatar around it, not the other way around. So I have to look forward. And again, if I click it, it will calibrate, but the lower half is not animated. So don't be sort of confused by that if you click the button. And yes, I could do that. Chicken elbows, whatever this is. So that's a bit of a bork. But yeah, the calibration is not what looks like should be calibrated. It is in fact flick of the wrist. Oh, yeah. When I go kind of broken, that's it. And as you can see down there, the torso, it took away the knee trackers. God knows where they are. The hands are gone way behind me. Elbow trackers are also gone too. And then I'm going to have to look forward. Click. Happy days. And again, so if you move, or it does that, yeah, twisting of the body randomly, of the parts, not sure what that's all about. And again, this is some of the issues that randomly does come up. So again, maybe calibration, but repeatedly doing that, it's kind of annoying. Needs to be done there sometimes. The calibration also comes from those balls. You can see the blue line indicating where it thinks it wants to go to, and the proximity of where it's going to connect to. So it's pretty useful. So I'm leaning physically left and right, and maybe it's worth to line those up a little bit more. So it's a bit of a balancing act of using peripheral vision, lining up stuff, and again, I'm going to click, I'm going to flick, and let's jump. So in that instance, it's, let's see if it's in, no, it is actually proper because it's moving the body. It's just put both the feet on. Ta-da! Both of the feet on the same one. So yeah, there's a few refinement issues about the proximity of the tracking balls themselves, and the fact is that's in normal mode. I think that's in calibration mode. I think that's, yeah, that's okay. It's got run now. The fact is that some avatars will have a narrower stance by pose or just by design than a humanoid. I think maybe they need to take into account, again, due to avatar design as such, male and female stances. Because again, the pose of avatars is a little bit different depending on the body shape, the body size, or design. And again, this is designed for, very likely, bipedal, as in humanoid forms, not digigrade, which is what the furry is known for, which is standing on sort of the balls of the feet, like a dog does. So this is maybe a factor, but for now it's in early stages. It works nicely, but still room for improvement, of course, and it's only, again, not available for Quest standalone, but it is Quest PCVR and such, basically VR, PCVR. You need a computer. You might be able to stick it onto a phone, sideload it, or do other things. I think people have tried, but they're still having some issues. But again, that's early days. Even this, this software is already being hacked or tweaked by community users anyway straight away, because people are very now tech active and involved in just making things more than what you think they could do, which is pretty good. So yeah, that's Standable for now. Version 1 only released the other day. Amateur sort of experience so far, and it's okay, but still a bit janky in certain things. Oh, and I guess in that sense as well, for poses and things, again, if you're gonna market it towards a VR chat, which of course it clearly is, again, avatar types, male, female. Let's say I'm wearing a skirt and lingerie. I don't think you want it to be like that. I was sat there in front of a mirror in the middle of the Black Cat with the nearest Unga Bungas coming along and going, mountain fresh, So that's where the consideration for some movements needs to be factored in as well, ideally. But it is what it is. Otherwise, fun. Very fun to have. Okay, well, that's my sort of janked up on the spot review of this. Yeah, it's great software. Good to go. Cheap as hell. It is really cheap. It is really cheap, but it's really good stuff. And yeah, works pretty nicely. Alright, well, I'm going to click on pause now. Have a nice day, and thanks for watching. Hope this is vaguely helped out, but yeah, Standable. It's pretty good stuff.